Hello. Today I will be bringing you an overclocked CLO, which is a boss designed to be done by 8 people. However, in our case, because there are 2 cog rounds, and in the second one they had this fun little thing where you fight some cheating bosses that can kill you if you make mistakes, turns out 5 of our 8 teammates perished. So now we are stuck with only 3 people. And for really good skilled players this might not be a problem, but unfortunately for me, I happen to be a pretty big noob at this boss, so I was really terrified going into this, because I've actually never won a final round where we went into it with anything less than, I think, 7 people. Anytime I've tried it with like 6, I think those were the times I went sad. So definitely, this is going to be a difficult battle for me. That's how I felt going into it, and I was nervous. For anyone who's not familiar with the OCLO, the overclocked CLO, it is essentially the CLO, which I've made a video on, but it's that, but if everything was just ran on crack. And what I mean by that is everything does way more damage, there are way more attacks, it is way harder to dodge everything because there are more attacks, all the attacks are more punishing, and also they have made changes to the game now where you have these things called Unite cooldowns. And so what that means is you cannot just simply spam your Unites and expect to live. You have to actually strategically use them, because if, let's say I use my Unite, I can't use one for another minute or 2. So that means I'm relying on other people to give them to me. And that is another problem we ran into with only 3 of us, is that we only have 3 Unite cooldown timers. So if we've all used a Unite and then we take more damage, we're just kind of stuck sitting there, unable to do anything. And so you'll see there are just a ton of different things that can hit you in this boss, and a lot of changes. So just like the regular CLO can jump, just like regular CLO, you got those traps you gotta push him into, but there are a lot of changes. So first of all, that's a big one right there. Every time that he falls into a trap and comes out, that coming back actually counts as a jump that does damage to you. Also, he's got those spinning cogs around him, with the defender cogs. You have to kill those before you're even able to stun him. And then additionally, the cogs are way more likely to attack traps than they are before. They kill the traps faster. Everything does more damage. There are several brand new attacks. He does 2 types of tornado attacks that go faster and do way more damage. That one got me right there. And he also just is constantly throwing stuff out, comboing you. You're going to always be under threat of duress of taking damage. And the treasures you get are worth something, but they don't nearly match the output of what you're taking in damage, for the most part. Now, if everyone in your group is never getting hit, that's one thing, but in this case there's only 3 of us, so the amount of treasures we have lying around are not that high. And I will say, if you're a very skilled player, there are players who have actually been able to solo this round before. They didn't get it on camera, but I know for a fact that they have soloed this round before. And I've seen people duo this round as well, so I know for a fact this is nowhere near impossible, but the point being is I am not a skilled player. This is a very mechanically intensive boss that I've struggled with the entire time I've been doing it, so being thrown into this situation for me was definitely very harrowing, to say the least. And you really, really need to be able to avoid things at the maximum amount you can, because you'll notice later on you take some serious punishment. And it's also why I'd recommend for anyone who tries the overclocked CLO, you should be bringing a surplus, a plethora of Unites, and you should not be stingy with them if you think you need them to survive. Because ultimately, if you don't bring enough Unites, you could end up in a situation where you're stuck just hiding, not contributing, and or you're just going to go sad. And neither is great outcomes, especially the going sad one, I suppose. And yeah, you just have to be very aware. It's a very 3D boss, is how I would describe this one in particular compared to anything else. If you think about the CEO, it's a 2D boss. You only really have to worry about, the 4 golf balls being thrown. Nothing else can really hit you. You're stuck in a situation where you have a very limited idea of what you need to have going on around you. In a CFO, you need to pay attention to the goon beams and if he's looking at you. In a VP, you have to pay attention if he's looking at you or if he jumps. And then in this boss, it's just you have to pay attention to, are cogs behind you? Are they going to run into you? Is he going to shatter you with gears? Is he looking at you and going to throw gears? Is a tornado going to come and hit you while spinning around like that? Are those searchlights going to get you and hit you for damage? Are you going to be pushing him onto a trap that is already disabled? Are there treasures around you can take? Is he about to fall down from a jump after you hit him? Are you going to get hit by something? And then getting hit is not just like this minor inconvenience, like let's say in most bosses where, you take usually not much damage. I guess you can take sort of big hits in the CEO, but again, the amount of different ways he can hit you in the CEO is very limited. And as long as you're moving, you're pretty much fine in the CEO. You have to have really good awareness of your surroundings. And in a lot of ways, this reminds me a little bit more of, say, like maybe a raid in World of Warcraft. Certainly not as hard as those, because a lot of these mechanics you're seeing around us would probably be like instant one-shots if this was WoW, but I do know that I've heard for a fact that the development team was kind of running this as a test to see how the player base would react to, adding some more of these types of mechanics to the game for, the hardcore players. And again, this is a hardcore player, I guess you could call, operation, because you need a bigwig suit to even attempt this. And in order to level up your suit, you actually need to be maxed in the CLO or the bigwig suit. And you can get 3 laugh points from it. I actually got my first laugh point from this Sense recording. This was, I think, the second to last one I needed. As you can see there, there's just so much stuff you have to worry about. And like you see that timer of a 176 in the left-hand corner? That is the Unite cooldown timer. So now, I believe 2 of us, I don't know if 2 people used the Tune Up Unite, it might have just been me, I can't really tell on the screen, but now you have to be really careful while you're on Unite cooldown timer, especially with 3 people, or you could end up in a situation where nobody can heal you and you're just going to go sad. So, definitely requires a lot of care. And when I started out doing this boss, I was just getting hit by everything left and right. I was getting hit by the jumps from the quicksand. All these things were just mauling me. I still consider myself below average, but this is a boss you really need to be adept and get used to using your mouse to turn with, which again is almost like a WoW MMO type thing. If you're using your keyboard to turn with, you're really not going to be able to get away with it so much anymore, I would say, for the most part. There may be some exceptions, but this is really not a boss that lends itself well to anything besides very precise, like being able to turn on a dime. Oh, and I just took a bunch of damage there. If you wondered why, that's because I had to let my cat out of my room, because he was being a nuisance. And you have to kill those spinning defender cogs before you can even stun him, unlike the regular CLO. You have to be able to still get a cog in range by taunting, dodge all those papers being thrown, and also the more damage you do to the CLO, the more damage all these attacks do, and they start to ramp up. And 45 Lath is not a safe place to be. That is one-shot range. Sort of like a CEO, I guess, except you just have a lot more things you have to worry about. And, I've only done, I think, 12 of these successfully so far, and I've died in 2 of them. I only have 5 deaths on this character according to my statistics page, and 2 of them have come from this boss, not even being close to maxing it, so definitely pretty intense. And, there are some people who've done this before, on YouTube. I've seen a 4-man OCLO from the start. The only reason I thought this one was sort of notable is just because of how in over my head I really was. Like, I can barely get through the regular one, and then I'm like, oh my god, 5 people are dead, we actually have to do this. And in the future, I think the next video I might make might actually be a little bit about the litigation round, but also more particularly, I'm thinking of making a video on, oh my god, you can see here I'm on a 95-second cooldown timer for Unite, and so I'm basically hoping, praying someone's gonna give me one of their Unites, or I'm just gonna go sad, probably. That's a little bit less of an issue if you have, 8 generous people you're with, but oftentimes the case you're gonna run into, which is fair enough, is an 8-person thing. People aren't gonna want to waste their tune-up Unite on you, because why would they? You're just a random, they can win without you. And when there's only 3 of you, they probably will use the Tune-Up Unite because they need you to win, but only 3 of you can do it. Do all 3 people even have the Unites to do it? Does anyone have it off cooldown? This is definitely the most challenging boss in the game by far. Not to say it's as hard as, other games, because of course it isn't, but it added a new element of challenge for sure. You can see there I get hit by the jump because I mistimed it a little bit. And so if you want to learn how to do this boss, I would say I'm not going to be your best resource. There are some really good people on there who you can just tell have really good technique. One I'd recommend in particular is Kit Lu. He is definitely someone I've watched a lot of the gameplay of to kind of practice from, as well as, I don't know, there's also some people who post videos of hitless runs or things like that, and getting used to the mechanics of this all, it gets easier every time you do it. I would not say this is one you can get discouraged by a few bad attempts on. You have to just kind of keep trying. But yeah, only nice thing about this is, you can see that mouse is like basically dead. I'm on a Unite cooldown, so I'm worried about them. I'm also kind of hurt now, so now I'm worried for both of our sakes. I think the mouse just kind of hid, which was a smart move on their part, because it's just it's a good idea if you can see any of the treasures kind of in the peripheral around. In this case, you can see my Unite timer just ran off, so now I give us both a big tune-up Unite boost. That was pretty good timing, honestly. But yeah, no, I think I would say it's a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of frustration, a lot of stress. If you heard the audio of this, or you've ever seen me streaming when I do this, I am like constantly like freaking out, basically. Because I always get frustrated when I get hit in this boss, because it's like, oh my god, now if I get hit one more time, I'm just screwed. But yeah, no, I thought this was definitely by far the least people have done this with before. And I'm also tanking everything, sort of like I'm a magnet, which is not the way to do the boss. I would not recommend the magnet strategy. You probably want to avoid taking as much damage as possible. I'm on cooldown here again. This is another very tense situation where I'm basically just like, oh, what am I going to do? And someone throws me a 60, so that was really kind of them. I think because they saw me using Unites on them so much, they probably understood that if I'm not using a Unite, it meant I was on cooldown. But yeah, big tips I would use if you ever decide you want to do one of these things is if you can max CFO and max your department level and then get like the daily boost for more Unite rewards and also get the daily boost by being like Surplus Sunday or whatever. If you can stack all those, I think you can get 6 Unites per run, and I think you usually get at least 3 of them being tune-up Unites because of how they have it coded. So if you can just do a couple of those runs, you'll be in good shape. I really found stocking up on a ton of tune-up Unites made this whole process a lot easier for me. And then also, like doing your research ahead of time. The litigation round, honestly, I don't think is that bad, but you need to go in with a plan and you need to listen to other people. That one's really more about just communicating with your team, honestly. But yeah, for sure, I do plan on making that guide, like I said, about like what gag tracks I think really are the most important for that round. And then, I don't even think I'm qualified to make a guide on how to survive this round. As you can tell, I'm just getting pummeled. But it's, yeah, I think it's, I hope they make more bosses like this. I hope they continue this concept, because it really does add some longevity to the game when it comes to actually having to put some time and effort and thought into how you're going to do some of these bosses. And it does feel rewarding to get better at this and to get the reward, because you get a bunch of cease and desists. You get, like, close to, I think you get 2.5 to 3 times like what you get from a regular CLO in terms of rewards for doing this, obviously at the cost of some tune-up Unites. But yeah, it's definitely well designed in my opinion, and I think even the Clash team went on a hiatus after finishing this just because of all the time they spent making this work. But for sure, if anyone in the comments has either tried this out, seems curious to come back, all you need to do to get here is a bigwig suit to even log in and try one of these, which might seem like a lot, but I really can guarantee it won't take you that long to get there. And I would be really curious what other people's experiences with this boss have been, because it's definitely been a roller coaster for me. And yeah, so that I think that pretty much sums up. I will also admit this is my second time recording the audio for this, because the first time somehow Audacity just decided to screw me over and basically deleted everything I recorded, so I'm a little bit afraid of saying the same things I've said twice in the same video. And it's obviously harder to record the audio for something a second time if your first time it gets deleted, if any of you have experience with that. But yeah, I felt like this was actually like the first thing I've been like sort of semi-recording things I've been doing here and there and seeing if I catch anything on camera that would be worthwhile talking about. This was by far the best candidate of those I found. I did have a live stream where I had a pretty intense litigation round, but this was definitely a lot more stressful. I'm sure many players could definitely pull off what we did here, but this was uniquely difficult for me given just how much I've struggled with the boss in general. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. We did it with 3 people. Do not recommend seeking out to do this with 3 people. Definitely don't recommend going in with 3 people. But yeah, for sure. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll be looking to post some more Clash videos, probably a few on the OCLO coming up in the future. If you have any ideas for videos you'd like to see about these topics or anything else, feel free to leave a comment suggesting what you think you'd like to see, and I will try my best to see if I agree if you think it's a good video and throw it up there. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.